Alrighty, so week 5. I'm just going to show you just because I won't have it for the rest of the time. It is early in the morning, way early for me, even because my schedule got thrown off this week, which I suspect we all go through. Like part of what I do besides this, and I love this, is I actually help run a restaurant here in Fresno, and I had to play backup. So, which put me, which happens for all of us. We just have to take care of whatever is in front of us to get through to the next thing. So that means you work whenever you can. I mean, I love the flexibility of what we get to do, but also you just have to step up when it doesn't work. All right. So at this point in the calendar, right, we are coming in, just back up a little bit, right? So here's a Saturday. I've gone through about half of the code reviews so far and some assistant sessions. And every time I do code reviews, dev projects, it convinces me more and more every time the importance of them because honestly, to me, this is where all of the stuff that you've been exposed to really, you get to see how well you can actually translate all this into a program, something that you're interested in coding. Okay. So now, having been through, again, I am not through every one, but there's some things I've already thought about for, and this might be like, oh my God, for your next dev, right? Which is here, right? So we're coming into this week. So we have 1, 2, and then boom, 3. So I'm going to go over today some things I've thought about with the Dev 1 already, but I will be rewriting these requirements from the last time I taught this because I just have to, because the course I used before covered some different topics than we have covered at this point. But I'm going to go over first the idea of that. But before I do, I just want to say that in this 9-week course, the 10th here is going to be the last date that you can drop this class without a grade. Okay, you'll get a W on your, where'd that go? November here, right? So I think it's 10/11. The reason I know that is I looked at the schedule here, last day to drop, 11/10. So now I don't recommend this at this point unless you're so far behind that and the question would be, how far behind is that? At this point, because of the pace of this course, you're probably not watching this if you're that far behind. So the chances are probably not. But I just want to tell you in general, in a class, you want to understand that last drop date. Because after this point of the semester, even if you stop working, which I hope you don't, you still get a grade. So you get to make that decision, and that point in our class is during this week. I just want to make sure you know. Okay. Okay. Now, having said that, that's just a little housekeeping we have to do. I've already been thinking, of course, as I mentioned, about the Dev 1. Not complete, but here's my thoughts so far, right? So you're going to add some major functionality to your Dev 0. Now, if you come up with something different, right, then it still has to meet the basic requirements of Dev 0. So it's fine if you want to come up with something different. Typically, I like to take something all the way through because then it allows me to increase just the functionality and the depth at which I can program that concept. But I allow some flexibility here. And I harped on this already on some folks on your, not harped on, but I want to validate that or clarify that on your Dev 1. And I tend to do this much more than Dr. Angela at this point. She does more of this later. But anytime you get input from the user, you need to validate it. And that means basically handling the input if there's an error and also presenting back to the user, hey, I didn't get the input I expected. Let me give you another try or something. Now, I come from the JavaScript world. That's my primary language. So this is, of course, in the browser, so important, but this is true anywhere. And you kind of might think, well, wait a minute, Rio, we're writing command line apps. This is true, but it doesn't matter. It's really about understanding how important it is to validate, write your code so that it is focused on first handling, making sure you're getting the right inputs, and then running your code thereafter, right? Because you can't really, because if you, and matter of fact, you should in your own actually give wrong input and see what it does. I mean, that's really just a part of your own testing that you do. Okay, so just know that for Dev 1, that'll be a hard requirement that anytime you ask for input, you have to validate it. At least one type of validation. Because remember, there's many types of validation that you can do. The other thing is that, and this will be kind of naturally flowing out of what we learn in the sections that you're doing right now, but I'll just want to say it here, is like the dry principle of do not repeat yourself, meaning use functions to reduce really, and really I would say to eliminate repeating code because that's its purpose. Now they're being able to say, when I repeat myself in my code, I really should be writing a function as one step, but also how can I just make my program more efficient by writing subroutines in a sense that just run anytime I need that code functionality in my that functionality in my code. But I just want to say that. So that will definitely be, you'll see that as I rewrite the dev one. And here's the one that I was actually, probably should have handled this. And I realize it in hindsight, of course, because I did not think anyone would use third-party libraries for this first dev, but a couple of you tried. And here's the thing, and I actually put this out on Discord, so I just want you to know, is that if you do in Dev 1, 2, sorry, 1, sorry, use a third-party libraries, and you have to set up a virtualized environment document so that when I pull your code, and really, it's not just me, it's just in general, this is the way you do things. You don't actually put out on GitHub or anywhere all the libraries. What you do is the user will bring that into their system. They will set up a virtualized environment and install that in their local system. Now, this is so important for so many reasons, but for me, this is important because I would never install something globally. Like when you do, and part of this documentation, I've given a link here because I put it out there. Now, this is one I wrote for last semester, but and what you're doing is you're actually, when you put it out on GitHub, you're doing what's called a freeze, and a freeze looks at the required libraries, creates a required.txt so that when I pull your code into my local system, that I can tell pip install the libraries that are needed, but only do that when I have a virtualized environment. Now, I was thinking about, because I actually probably in week 5 should have done something, and I may actually go back and do at least a video showing you how to do virtualized environments because it is so important. But I just want you to know, heads up about that. Okay. And then most of you did a fine job on here, but this is absolutely a requirement, 100% PEP 8. And if you're not doing PEP 8 for all the day along coding, I haven't actually been as like critical looking at that part. But I'm telling you, the more, yeah, and hopefully you're all have got the plugin, right? So in this case, right, you go to the Python linter and you do PyCode style. I have to say, I need to do a little more research. And by the way, once you do that, you may have to install the linter at that point, right? But then when you open up your code, right, when you open up your code, that's when your problems show your PEP 8, okay? So PEP 8 issues. So 100% you got it. And you should really just be doing this anytime you're coding. And I know, and I found this too, when you're copying Dr. Angela's work, she doesn't do it, right? Doesn't matter. I'm requiring it. Okay. Okay. So these are just my first thoughts. I will have, of course, because now I'm actually on day 14 for myself. So I just need to do this. And this is where she does the local, her shows how to, and she uses PyCharm. I don't. But I'll of course probably have my little virtualization video probably in here somewhere because we still end up doing a little bit. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead. So let's look at now, because this project for this capstone project, again, I'm going to harp on this, is like really give this a try, meaning really give yourself enough time to write this, right? Because, and this is the way when I do the instruction, I tell you, right? I want you to attempt this code, right? I want to see your code, commit your code, and then you can go through and code the solution either by updating your code or doing it separately, which I ended up just doing it separately. But I definitely want to see both. So, but again, this is such a good project, Blackjack. And my code was not great, but I got it working, and then going back and looking at it. And then, of course, talking about, scoping. This is the point. This is not in understanding namespaces and local, right? And does Python have block scope and then modifying, which I kind of had to cover because I forgot about it when I was just saying a pre-learning on functions, constants, right? And then again, another fun project here by doing the guessing game. And then on 13 was, this was debugging, and you're based on how much skill you've had with debugging, you're going to either find this fun or not. But I ended up playing upon this for our Learn Together. Right. So for the Learn Together for week 5, and this is where now that I've done it, I kind of thought, oh, I wonder if there's going to be a little bit of a challenge here, because what I'm having you do is write and find bugs in each other's code. So the only thing I've thought of now that I've done it, because you're going to first write some code, and then, select somebody's post. But here's where this gets a little interesting, because some of you, thank you very much, work ahead. You may not have anything to do, of course, until that point. So, if you have some ideas about if that you feel like that's become an issue with timing, talk to me about how we can do that. So that is your week 5. And then I will complete this working on here. On the Dev 1, I'll have the schedule up by the time you get to the attendance for this. Where's my week 6 attendance? I gotta go check that out. But really, here's the other thing. Week 5 means we're in week 10. Okay. So over halfway through, in the sense of an 18-week class. I've already talked about the drop date, and I think that's all the stuff I had for this attendance. I really appreciated so far. I've gotten to read at least a couple of feedbacks from the week 4 attendance. So I don't have all of them, and I don't have everybody's code reviews, so I can't speak to other issues that I just wanted to highlight, but at least I got to talk about a couple. All right, have a great one. And then in your reply, what are you thinking for your Dev 1, right? Now that you've been through Dev 0, what kind of functionality are you going to add to that? Or any questions for anything that I've covered here? Okay. All right. Have a great one, and I'll talk to you soon.